I've been a Democrat and a resident of Austin all my life, and that's now a pretty substantial period of time. And as a Democrat, I believe in 4 basic principles. One's fairness, and one's opportunity, and one's change. And I think it's time, and David and I do agree on this, is that we need to have real change in this town. But I don't think what's being proposed by David and his friends is real change. You know, David talks about, well, we need to get some districts, but not too many. And we need to keep some vestige of the old system. Let's talk about how that old system's worked. As David said, it was put in place to deny the only minority there was in Austin in '53 any chance to have representation. In '71, when we finally did elect a black, and in '75 when we elected a Hispanic, a thing called the Gentleman's Agreement was put in place to see to it white people decided which black and which Hispanic was elected. So it was maintained by paternalism. Now, in '71 and '75 and '77, that was probably a good idea. It ain't worth a damn anymore in 2012. Now, why did we pick 10? Did we just pick it because we were contrary to the other folks? Because 8's a number that had been used historically around here as a number that gives 2 districts. One, just arbitrary. The option of any number of districts is to be sure that the smallest minority group can be guaranteed the opportunity to elect themselves a representative with their own votes and not with the help of other folks. And in Austin, that's been the African Americans. A number of us, including myself, has been doing redistricting professionally for 35 years and who did the first VRA submission in the history of this state, of this county. We went out and looked and we found that 10 districts was the only way we could do that. You can have a district where African Americans can elect their own representative if you have 10 districts. You can create a district, and the blacks are only 7.7% of this city. But you can create a district in which citizen voting age population for African Americans is a plurality. You don't have to just believe me. You can believe the NAACP, who went out and ran those same numbers and came to that same conclusion. And yes, there are Republicans in part of the coalition I'm part of. But one of the leaders of that coalition is the NAACP because they're tired of having the African American city councilman picked by white people. They want a district in which they have the opportunity, and that term isn't just rhetorical, it's legal. And some of you lawyers here who work in this area understand that. They want the opportunity to be able to elect an African American. And we created districts through our work that show we can elect 2 Hispanics. David's plan can elect 1 Hispanic, maybe a second, and no blacks. He has no district that gives blacks an opportunity. There's not enough blacks, and 8 isn't sufficient anymore. That's the difference in why we talk about 10 versus 8. And by the way, his 7 folks didn't vote for 8. They voted for 10 districts. Because in fairness, they wanted a system that gave blacks an opportunity. Now there's another thing this system has done that's evil. In the last 41 years since we started electing mayors at large as well as council members, 4 zip codes, 01, 03, 04, 31 and 59, 4 zip codes have elected 55% of the city council. You've had single member districts. Just 1 district has been the single district that ran everything. And the other 90%, they represent 10% of the population. You've got a map in the handout we gave you that shows you those 4 zip codes. The other 90% of the city has elected 45%. Those zip codes have elected 15 to 17 mayors. That ain't fair. And that ain't much of an opportunity for the rest of us. If we have 10 districts divided throughout this city, those 4 folks are going to elect 1 council member, not 55%. If you keep some vestige of the current system, they're going to elect the mayor. They've been electing 15 out of 17, so they're pretty likely going to get 1. And without this so-called gentleman's agreement, they're going to get the other 2 that David creates. So that's going to give them 4. On David's system of 11, they're going to get 4 seats. Now, I promise that's better than 55%, but it ain't a heck of a lot better. As far as I'm concerned, I want to quote to you from a thing we got from Malden. If I can pull it up quick enough. What's my time on there?
About 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes, okay. Malden said to us that a hybrid proposal often dilutes the voting strength of minorities because when you combine single-member districts and at large, you give one individual group or area the chance to be overrepresented at the expense of the city. Sound familiar? Could 01, 03, 31, and 59 maybe overpower everybody else like it has for 41 years? Now, I'm going to be blunt with you. I think that keeping hybrids is pretty much like going into a poker game, finding out you got a marked deck, getting a fresh deck, but keeping a couple of marked cards so to make the dealer happy. Okay? If you're going to change, you need to change. You need to get rid of all the vestiges of a system which was born of racism and, bless its heart, has been maintained by paternalism for 41 years. There's nothing good about having somebody so-called take care of the public interest. I was involved in passing 10-1 in San Antonio. It's 40 years ago. I've elected city council members in San Antonio and district council members in Houston, district council members in Corpus Christi. I haven't yet had a council member come to me and say, I want to run on how good a job I did on garbage collection or pothole work in my district. All of those people want to talk about citywide issues. I never had a council member who just wanted to talk about their districts. I never had anybody in San Antonio tell me I don't care about my aquifer. The idea that if you're going to elect people in Austin who are so simple-minded, all they want to care about is what's inside the boundaries of their district, should be an insult to you and to the potential people that you're going to run for city council. It never happens anywhere else in Texas. And remember, Austin is the only city in Texas that doesn't have geographic representation. The only big city. We're one of the only big cities in the nation that doesn't have geographic representation. Do you think there are council members in other cities who need a hall monitor to be able to tell them to be sure to remember the citywide issues? San Antonio council members managed to build a football stadium. They've managed to take care of transportation. They've managed to work on their aquifer. And they did it without even one single citywide person to tell them what to do. Now, according to David, that's amazing. According to me, that's called democracy. And that's how things will work. You know, the truth of the matter is, and I had this discussion with a good friend of mine back here about Asians. And I've been told that this plan is anti-Asian. And the truth of the matter is, there's not enough Asians yet in this town to create an opportunity district. But we did a demonstration now for the gentleman back here. And we created a district based on where the Asian concentration is that had as much population in it as the district in Houston that just a year ago elected an Asian city councilman, and more population in it than the district in San Antonio that elected an Asian city councilman. The truth of the matter is, these districts would allow the person in that community all over this city the opportunity for people in all parts of this city to be able to be elected. If you live once north of 183 out there, you've never had a city councilman. If you live in south of the river, you're 40% of the population, and you've averaged 1.5 city councilmen in 41 years, and one mayor, and the last mayor, folks, was in 1975, that one mayor. Now, David I've heard him say this because he and I are good friends, and we've been doing this act now for the better part of 3 months. He'll say, well, that concentration is kind of historic. But until David took care of Randy Shade, there were 4 city council members that lived in District West, in this council. Okay? Now let me tell you something else. Now David voted just as he said he did for a mixed system. And he had one other person, and he doesn't live in West Austin. And he had one other person on that commission voted with him, he doesn't live in West Austin. The other 5 people out of that 7 that voted with him all live in 01, 03, 31, and 59. I think they may have just had some reason to want to maintain the power of that part of town. Now, I believe in opportunity, I believe in representation, and I believe in change, and I believe in fairness. And I believe we have lived long enough under a system that was created to see to it that black people and then Hispanics couldn't have representation, and then they had all the representation that white people would give them. By the way, the Hispanics went for 3 years with a really nice friend of mine who was Jewish and spoke Spanish as a Hispanic representative. So that gentleman's agreement didn't always work. I think it's time, right now, to tell this city it's a city, that we need to move on. We need to do what every city in Texas above the size of Cotulla, what every major city in the country has done, And that's allowed everybody in every part of town, southeast, northeast, northwest, north, south, north of the river, south of the river, to be able to choose their voice at City Hall. Okay, thank you.